Okay.
Okay, so the first thing I'm going to do is open up and clean out the housing. Last time, every time we get a little bit of gunk that collects around the O-rings even when the water's fairly clear. So I'm going to use some, if I can find them, Q-tips. Okay, well, I can't tell you where I put my Q-tips, but fingers work okay. Just clean out the main gunk in the O-ring grooves of these housings. It's kind of important to do that because if you keep any of that sand in there by the O-rings, you can get water that leaks into the housing during your next filming, and it's usually not enough to harm the cameras, although you don't want to take any chances. But the main risk is actually that you'll get a little bit of water in there and you'll get condensation that screws up your video, clogs up the lens. I'm also going to wipe off the O-rings themselves. You can bring a cloth for this or just use your shirt if you don't care about it. To make the seal better, I've got some little Trident silicone lube there that came with the housings, I think, and I ordered a little bit extra. Just rub that all around the O-rings. And put it on there. Another important step here is to invest bags in the housings, at least for where I'm working, where the water is really cold and the air is fairly warm. The air ends up getting cooled down pretty quickly when it's down underwater with the housings, and you get a bunch of condensation. Even if you didn't have any water in there, just from moisture in the air, it'll condense over your lens and fog the image. These old 1-ounce desiccant bags are kind of overkill. Each one lasts me probably half the summer. But these two happen to be finally kind of waterlogged, so I'm going to stick new ones in there. And they just fit nicely onto the sides of the cameras. Like that. And we're ready for the cameras themselves. Now for each camera, I'm going to manually focus before I put them in the housings. I found the autofocus really doesn't work very well at all underwater because the cameras tend to pick up on little particles that drift right by the lens and autofocus on those and then get completely out of focus when the particle's gone, and they typically don't recover from that and you're just stuck with a long blurry video. So that's the last thing you want. One important thing to realize when working with any underwater housing, and especially with the kinds of underwater housings that I'm using, where I've got an extra wide angle port on there, is that the focus distance that the camera tells you it's focused at is not the actual focus distance when you go through that air-water interface and through the wide angle lens. So I'm setting this camera to focus on at 2.3 meters because the fish are going to be at about 30 centimeters in front of the camera, if that, maybe 20. So you've got to really focus a lot farther out than your fish actually are, and you just got to experiment with your system to get the exact right factor there. I also write down exactly how far each of these cameras are focused at. Is that why when I go back and look at the video and I say, oh, that one wasn't focused quite right, I can learn from that for the future. It's important to keep a record. And that one's at 2.5. I'm also going to look at the battery life here. 143 minutes, 140. So the shortest battery is 140 at 12:51 p.m. So that means we're going to pull the cameras at 12:51, 2:51, 3:01, 3:11 p.m. That's when the batteries will theoretically die. They'll probably last a little bit less than that, but might as well give it the benefit of the doubt and get all the fish recording we can. Okay, now I put the cameras in the housings and mark when we started recording. So that's the old decimal buried in there, so it's really trouble. Okay, you can probably turn that off now.
Yep.